There's more and more interest in Canada in developing an EV manufacturing industry. It's not that we don't have any, but certainly it's not as big as the United States, Europe, or China. And so we're going to talk to Joanna Kyriazis from Clean Energy Canada about a report that she's done recently, which outlines how Canada can expand its EV manufacturing supply chain. So welcome to the interview, Joanna.
Thanks for having me, Markham.
Well, look, why don't you give us an overview of your report, please?
Sure. So Clean Energy Canada spent the last 5 or so months engaging with industry stakeholders along the electric vehicle battery supply chain, from the mining sector to battery metals, auto parts, auto assembly, and even through to battery recycling. And we talked about what Canada's EV battery opportunity was and how do we build a domestic industry and domestic supply chain here. So the report that we just released the other day lays out the top priority actions that Canada must take to establish itself as a player in the global EV battery game.
Well, now that's very interesting. And I find this fascinating because when we think of EV manufacturing, we often think of light duty vehicles like cars and trucks. But in fact, EV manufacturing also includes transit, it includes school buses, it includes garbage trucks, work vehicles like that. So what were some of the recommendations that came out of your report?
So I guess I'll just step back and say, certainly the vehicle production is what comes to people's mind when they think of electric vehicles. Like you said, electric cars, buses, trucks, even snowmobiles and ferries. But really, we wanted to sort of lay out the entire supply chain and better understand what does Canada have going on already, which, by the way, the answer was not very much. And then where could we best compete? Should we do it all, or should we really try to hone in on the battery cell production piece? Maybe we actually want to be making battery components like cathodes and anodes that are also high value. And so anyways, our report and what we heard from the industry stakeholders was that Canada has a chance to lead in supplying clean and sustainable batteries and battery materials, but it needs to act fast if we want to capture a piece of the growing global market. As you said, Asia is already way ahead on this. China in particular has a very developed EV battery supply chain. The EU and the US are racing to catch up and are ready to act fast and spend big. And so Canada needs to take steps in the next 6 to 12 months if we want to get in the game.
Now, we know that President Biden has made an expansion of the American EV industry a top priority and be putting tens of billions of dollars into it. We know that the Canadian auto industry is tightly integrated into the US auto industry. So that seems to give us a bit of an edge there. What else do we have to do in those 6 to 12 months to act before the window closes?
So first, I would say we need to get Canada's ducks in a row, which means we need to coordinate government and industry along the EV supply chain to figure out what activity do we already have going on in the battery supply chain? What are our highest potential areas where we can compete? And then what do we need to ramp those up, whether it's investments or pulling certain policy levers? Second, we need to get transactions going and investment flowing. So this is going to require engaging with the US to launch a North American battery alliance, like the EU Battery Alliance, which would connect players along the supply chain. It would help Canadian companies get access to the US market and connect buyers with suppliers. And then finally, it would drive capital investment into the supply chain. Similarly, we need to better promote Canada's clean battery advantage abroad so that we can attract automaker and battery maker investments and get them to set up more of their facilities here. And then last, we need to pull the right policy levers. So, two recommendations particularly that we made in the report were to launch a dedicated battery supply chain fund that very publicly acknowledges batteries as a key part of the economic strategy for our mining, manufacturing, auto, and clean tech sectors, and helps to invest strategically along the supply chain. And then another was to grow demand for EVs and batteries here by accelerating EV uptake in cars, buses, trucks, and other vehicle types.
Well, I hate to say it, I'll be a little skeptical, Joanna, because I've seen this movie before. And generally, it's the main theme is Canada needs to get organized to take advantage of fill in the blank opportunity. And Canada never does that. We're very slow on the uptake. We've got all sorts of players. Our federal government is not as strong as other federal governments. And there's often not leadership readily at hand. So based on what you just said, and based on our history, I would say that it doesn't look good. Am I right or am I wrong?
I think this time it's going to be different, Markham. The level of enthusiasm and alignment across industry stakeholders is something I've never seen before. The scale of the opportunity where lithium ion batteries, the market will be worth over 100 billion by 2030. And then just the need for batteries to really allow us to make the clean energy transition that we're all really working hard to make. The IEA's net zero report released earlier this week said that the world needs to be building 20 gigafactories for battery production every year in order to meet our 2050 targets. I just think things, those ingredients make this situation a little bit different. And I have confidence that Canada is going to do something with this opportunity and move fast and surprise us.
Well, that enthusiasm is probably the right note on which to end the interview. Thank you very much, Joanna. Always appreciate your insights.
Thanks for the chat today, Markham.